Welcome back to another class. In this class, we shall be again continuing with the discussion where we left off. We shall be continuing with principles, and if time permits, we are going to go ahead and talk about line and staff organization, which is the fourth point according to your syllabus that needs to be covered. So let us move ahead with the first question. Which of the following statement holds true for principle of objective of organization? Now we are going to understand what is principle of objective with the help of this question. Now your options that you have on the screen are helps in framing objectives, option B helps in accomplishing already set objectives, option C deals with overall goals instead of individual departmental goals, option D none of the above. The answer to this question is option B. Option B. Principle of objective relates to accomplishing already set objectives. Now, why is it not A? First of all, principle of objective in organization does not mean that or in organization you start making objectives. Making objective is a part of planning. It's not a part of organizing. In fact, the part of organizing is to pursue those objectives that has been framed and made in planning. So that's why the answer is not option A. When it comes to option D, look at the statement. Deals with overall goals instead of individual departmental goals. Principle of objective also helps in the accomplishment of individual goals, individual departmental goals. So this very statement is actually false and does not fit for principle of objective of organization. So the answer over here is option B. Let us move to the next one. Next question is, according to the principle of dash, the whole work of a concern should be divided amongst the subordinates on the basis of qualifications, abilities, and skills. Which principle states that? Is it principle of specialization? Does principle of specialization state that the whole work should be divided amongst the subordinate on the basis of skills, qualifications, abilities? Or does it, or is it a principle of coordination, or is it span of control, or is it principle of balance? Which one is it? The answer is specialization. A, specialization. What is principle of specialization? You have it on your screen. It concerns itself with division of work so that the specialized people are doing the work. At the same time, people who have the skills and abilities do the work that they will be able to do. Okay, and thus become specialized on that. That is principle of specialization. Now, what is principle of coordination? Principle of coordination simply states that the whole work would be coordinated, will be synchronized. Okay, principle of coordination states that the organization will look after the works and the processes in such a way so that the whole objective achievement is done in coordination with each other. What is span of control? Span of control is how many number of subordinates would be kept under a manager or a superior. Okay, so it is always limited in number. Now that is a principle of span of control. What is principle of balance? Balance talks more about the power in the authority, the balance between the work and the skills that have been given. So principle of balance states that it will always proceed in a balanced manner. Let us move to the next question. Principle of coordination relates to which one of the statements? Option A, each area and function of an enterprise should operate with equal effectiveness in making its allotted contribution to the total purpose. Option B, the number of employees that can be handled and controlled effectively by a single manager. Option C, clarifications in authority and responsibility relationships. Option D, merger of differentiated goals for unified objective achievement along with synchronizations in grouped works. The answer is option D. Okay, now option A actually relates to, let me not circle it so that it is not confusing. Yes. Option A relates to principle of balance. Option B relates to span of management. Option C is related to principle of authority and responsibility. And option D is the only one that talks about synchronizations. And only through synchronization there can be coordination. So option D is the right answer. Let us move ahead with the next question. Which of the following can be delegated? Authority. Option B, responsibility. Option C, both A and C. That means both authority and responsibility. Option D, none of the above. Which one can be delegated? Usually, we tend to think that both authority and responsibility can be delegated, but the answer is option A. Only authority can be delegated. Responsibility cannot be delegated. You may ask why? Why, sir? Why responsibility cannot be delegated? The thing is that if a manager is given the task to do something, the manager is going to be the one who is going to say whether he was able to do or not. He cannot shift responsibility. He can't say that my subordinate did not do it, so I failed it. No, he will be penalized, not his subordinate. It's his work, not his subordinates. Responsibility will not be or cannot be delegated. Only authority can be delegated. I have this power. I give you the right to do this on my behalf. That can be done. But I remain responsible if the work is not done. So the answer is only authority. Responsibility cannot be delegated. That's why even option C is not the right answer. Okay, let us move ahead. Everybody's responsibility will become no one's responsibility. Hence, duties are to be clearly assigned so that every person knows his work with definiteness. This statement is the explanation of which of the following principles? Option A, principle of authority and responsibility. Option B, principle of unity of command. Option C, principle of definition. Option D, scalar principle. Which one do you think would be the right answer? The right answer is option C, principle of definition. Principle of definition in organization means that everyone's responsibility will be clearly defined. Everybody will know what they are supposed to do. That is principle of definition. So the answer is principle of definition. What is scalar principle? We have talked previously about principle of authority. What is unity of command? Unity of command means there would be a single flow of communication from top to bottom. It will not be haphazard. And what is scalar principle? Scalar principle says that the reporting relationship is not multiple, it is singular. That means I am responsible to one person and that person alone. Okay, there would be a single head all the time. Okay, so these are the different uh, different types, and there would be another discussion, another question on principles, and this will be the last question on principle that we'll be discussing. Dynamism is the concept of which of the following principles? Is it a concept of principle of uniformity? Is it a concept of principle of exception? Is it a concept of principle of continuity? Or is it a principle of simplicity? Simple. The answer is option C, principle of continuity. Okay. What does dynamism mean? We already discussed it in the previous class. Dynamism is more about being flexible. If you are not flexible, can you continue in the future? Not at all. Now then, what is principle of uniformity? Principle of uniformity means that the works that I am doing would be uniform in nature. It will be similar, not same. Okay. Principle of exception means that the managers would not bother around each and every single matter that comes on their way. They will only give their attention to very important matters. Others they would delegate or they would not look to. In fact, the better choice would be to delegate those. That is principle of exception. What is principle of simplicity? Principle of simplicity simply states that the whole system that is being organized by organization or the structure that is being maintained would be simple enough to understand who is reporting to whom and how the uniformity or how the communication flows. Okay, so dynamism is the concept of principle of continuity. Now let us move to the next portion, line and staff organization. Which one is called the oldest form of organization? Is it line organization? Is it staff organization? Is it line and staff organization, or is it all of the above? The answer is only line organization is the oldest form. This is this has been seen since the time of wars. They follow line organization, militaries, and this is the oldest form of organization that we have. Next question states, select the option that defines line organization. Okay, now there are three different statements given. Which one defines line organization? Option A, power, authority, decisions, orders, directions come to lower levels step by step. Scalar principle is followed. Accountability moves step by step upward from lower levels to upper levels, or all of the above. Which one? The answer is option D, all of the above. Why is it option D, all of the above? First of all, what happens in a line organization? We have one singular head, so scalar principle is followed. One commander, okay? One person to take the decisions and give the directions. So we have one head. From that person flows power to lower levels, authority to lower levels. From that person or that post, decisions and orders and different directions flow step by step to different lower levels. Okay. And what is accountability? আমি কাজটা করেছি কি না কৈফিয়ত দেওয়াটা is accountability. ঠিক আছে? I am responsible. I am accountable. I have to give an account of what I did. So, is management accountable to the employees or employees accountable to the management? Employees are accountable to the management. All the subordinates are accountable to their superiors. So, that's why it is written accountability moves step by step upward from lower levels, that means from subordinates to upper levels, that is superiors. So, all these statements actually define what is line organization. That's why the answer is all of the above. Let us look at the next question. Which characteristic of line organization is false? Which characteristic is false among the four given characteristics? Scalar chain of command, scope of managerial specialization, limited span of management, or simplicity? The answer to this question is scope of managerial specialization. Why so? Sir, scalar chain of command. We have seen that scalar chain is followed, so it is true for line organization. Why not about limited span of management? Limited span of management mane ki? There are very few who are under one superior. There is a limit to it, and that is very true. Okay, line organization a superior does not have all the people under him. A superior has very few people whom he or she can manage. Okay, so that's why limited span of management is a characteristic of line organization, and line organization is the simplest to understand. So A, C and D all fit for organizing, but not be. Why not? Scope of managerial specialization is very limited. Why? Because managers are only interested to do the same thing over and over again. So they don't get specialized in managing. They only get specialized in the work. Managerial specialization, as we have discussed before, also considers dealing with varieties of work related to that particular post. But that variety itself is missing in line organization. That's why scope of managerial specialization is very minimum. That's why this is the answer. Scope of managerial specialization. Let us look at the next question. Which option is true for line organization? Flexibility, delayed decision making, clear-cut responsibility, indiscipline. Conta true. Which one is true? Is line organization flexible? Is line organization uh, is its limitation delayed decision making? Is it true that there is clear-cut responsibility? Is it true that there is indiscipline? Which one? Which statement is true for line organization? The answer to this question is option C, clear-cut responsibility. Why so? Why clear-cut responsibility? Because as we talked about before, it's a very simple form of organization where everybody knows who is their superior, all the superior knows their subordinate, and they are given one particular job, and that's the simplest form, and everybody knows their responsibility. Okay, but flexibility is not true for organization, line organization. It is not at all flexible. Okay, it is not at all dynamic in nature. If suppose there needs to be a very important decision that needs to be taken within few minutes, okay, the subordinates are not given the power or the authority to make it, so it is not flexible. It cannot change itself according to the environment, no. So it is not flexible. It is very rigid in nature. It has to follow that scalar principle. It will follow the system that has been established. Now, as a result, there would be delayed decision making. Okay, is it true that there would be delayed decision making? Not necessarily. The thing is that generally the decision making is very fast in line organization. Why? Because there's just one body which is taking decision. No need for getting into a round table conference to take a decision. Okay, so there will not be delayed decision making. Okay, and is there indiscipline? Not at all. There's full discipline in line organization. That is why the option that fits true for line organization is only clear-cut responsibility. Others are not true for line organization. Let us move to the next one. Select the option that defines the limitation of line organization. Specialization, suitable for big enterprises, flexibility, autocratic. Which is the one that defines the limitation of line organization? The answer is B, suitable for big enterprises. When the enterprise is really big, this form of line organization is not sufficient. That's why this statement that line organization is suitable for big enterprises is false. Okay, so that's why it is actually limitation of line organization. Others do not fall under the category of limitation. There is autocracy. There can be a little amount of flexibility if not fully. Okay, there can be specialization in the particular work, maybe not managerial, but the work specialization would be there. So all the other options do fit a little bit, but this particular statement in option B is actually the full limitation of line organization. Let us move to the next one. Which statement fits for staff organization? Option A, employment of experts to execute advisory function. Experts act as assistant and advisor. Option B. Option C, experts have no right to give command and direction. Or option D, all of the above. What would be your choice? The answer to this question is option D, all of the above. Why so? Because what is staff organization? Staff organization includes that some experts would be employed. And why they have been employed? So that they can give some advisory functions, that they can give some advices. Okay. Now they do not work as direct workers, they work as assistants. Their main name is more like their function is more like advisors. But at the same time, they have no right to give any command or direction. They are not people who would change the course of action. They don't have that right. They can only give advice, but they cannot do further. They can do no further from that. Okay. So all these three statements define what is our staff organization. So the answer is all of the above. Let us move to the next question. Persons who are employed in advisory functions are called, what is their name? What are they called by? Are they called experts? Or are they called staff officers? Or are they called managers? Or are they just referred to as advisors? What is the answer? The answer is option B. Those who are employed in advisory functions are actually called staff officers. They are not called experts, they are not called managers, they are not called advisors. They are only called staff officers. Let us move to the last question for today. This question asks, identify which is not a feature of staff organization. Which one of this is not a feature of staff organization? Option A, specialized service. Option B, auxiliary in nature. Option C, mental functions. Option D, practical experience. Now think about it. What is staff organization? You have experts who are giving some advisory functions or advices. So why are they called experts? Because they are specialized in their particular area. So of course we can say that staff organization gives a specialized service. So option A is actually a feature of staff organization. But the question asks which is not a feature of staff organization. Let's look at option B, auxiliary in nature. What does auxiliary mean? Auxiliary means a support, an extra support. Now, staff organization means that there are people who have been put to support with advices what should be done. So don't you think their work is more of auxiliary in nature? That means their work is more of a support in nature. Of course, they are supportive in nature. That is why this is also a feature of organization. What about mental functions? Giving advices are actually an act in mind, act in brain. You need to think a lot, you need to research a lot, you need to develop a lot, you need to work around a particular matter a lot to come up with an alternative. All these things are done by the staff officers. So it requires huge amount of mental function. So this is a feature of staff organization. But then the answer is option D, practical experience. What do we understand by practical experience? These people are good, staff officers are good at board work. Staff officers are good at planning and charting and giving advices. But are they really good at doing the work? Not necessarily. Some may say that okay, better to take train than taking a bus. But that may be lacking practical experience because taking a bus might give you more flexibility for food, eh, rather than the train. So the person who would say take train would say because it's much more comfortable. But the person who is practically experienced that okay, in that train route there are no stations that can provide you food, it's better to take bus because on the bus route there are much more food items. That's from practical experience. Similarly, when it comes to corporate field, people who are working on a daily basis with the outside world and within the environment of work, they know how to get the work done. They know that there may be better suggestions many times, but that are not practical. Those are not practical because things don't work the way we think things work different in a world. So practical experience is something that is not a feature of staff organization. This is where we conclude today's class. We will meet again in the next week. Thank you.